All right, we'll start in just a minute here. In the meantime, if you're looking for interpretation, there is a button on the bottom right for translation, for our live translation to Spanish. And Mr. Brewer, would you mind repeating that one more time for anyone who may be watching?
Si está buscando traducción al español, busque el botón con un icono en forma de círculo que dice Interpretation. O desde un celular, oprima sobre los 3 puntos y luego oprima sobre Language Interpretation.
Muchas gracias. Okay, so we're looking for, Trustee Nziwi is here. Maybe she's on the attendee side. Aha. All right, Trustee Nziwi, do we have you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Oh, coming on. Very good. All right. Okay. Buenas noches. Bienvenido a todos. Good evening. Welcome, everyone, to the Governing Board meeting of the Mount Diablo Unified School District for January 13th, 2021. I hope that everyone's staying healthy and safe in this difficult time. And I just wanted to let you know that we will be adjourning this meeting later tonight in the honor of 3 Mount Diablo staff who unfortunately have passed away. Jesse Forsland from Olympic High, Max Wilson from Gregory Gardens, and Mashid Zendadel from Valley View. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, and we'll begin with roll call. We'll start with our student trustee, Alas. Trustee Alice, I see you are here, but did you free? Okay, there we go. She is here. Okay, very good. Trustee McFerrin.
Here.
And Trustee Mason.
Here?
Yeah, I think I lagged.
Oops. Trustee Mayo.
Here.
And Trustee Nzewi.
Here.
All right, we are all here. So moving on to 6.2, review and potential approval of the agenda. This is an item that hasn't previously been on our agenda, but it gives us the opportunity. It's kind of a standard item for Robert's Rules. Gives us the opportunity if there's anything that needs to be moved within the agenda or pulled. So are there any changes needed to the agenda at this point?
Would you like a motion to accept it as presented?
I actually have one item that we are pulling off, and that is item 17.3.
Okay, Dr. Clark would like to pull item 17.3. Do we have a motion to accept the agenda, or are there any other changes to the agenda? Anything? Okay.
So I would make a motion that we approve it with the elimination of 17.3.
Thank you, Vice President Mason. Do we have a second?
I second it.
Second from Trustee Nzewi. All right. So we'll take that to a vote. Vice President Mason?
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi?
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin?
Yes.
Trustee Mayo?
Yes.
And Trustee Alas. I didn't do you first, but we'll get you in there somewhere.
Yes.
Okay. I also vote yes. Thank you. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from the student board member. All right, so to report out, 7.0, report out action taken in closed session. So item 7.1 is negotiations. The board may discuss negotiations or provide direction to its representatives regarding represented employees pursuant to EERA Government Code Section 3549.1. Agency negotiators, Dr. Adam Clark, Dr. John Rubio, Dr. Dan Scudero, Dr. Lisa Gonzalez, Dr. Wendy Aguili, Jennifer Sachs, Cesar Alvarado, and Mike Berg. Agencies, Medea, DMA, MDSPA, CSEA, CST Local 1, and Teamsters Local 856. On this item, the board received information and provided guidance. Item 7.2, discipline, dismissal, release, or reassignment of public employee, Government Code Section 54957B1, one case. The board received information, but there was no action taken. Item 3.3, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Government Code 54956.9, Jane Doe. Court number MSC 19-00334. The board conferred with legal counsel and voted 5-0 to authorize settlement as recommended. Item 3.4, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation pursuant to 54956.9B, one case. The board received information. All right. So moving on now to item 8.0, public comment. So the public may address the board regarding any item within the jurisdiction of the Board of Education of the Mount Diablo Unified School District that is not on this agenda. These presentations are limited to 3 minutes each, or a total of 30 minutes for all speakers, or the 3-minute limit may be shortened. If there are multiple speakers on any one subject, the public comment period may be moved to the end of the meeting. Speakers are not allowed to yield your time. And then the point of clarification that we often like to give here in Mount Diablo is to let participants know that according to the Brown Act, we as the board are not allowed to engage in a discussion in a public comment because it's an item that has not been previously noticed on the agenda, but we can listen to your public comment and ask clarifying questions. All right, so is there any public comment verbally tonight?
Thank you, Board President Count. Yes, we've set aside 30 minutes, as you've said, for public comment. As a general reminder to our public, you have 2 options related to public comment. The first is to email boardcomments@mdusd.org, and that email is automatically distributed to all board members. That email is available until the end of the meeting, and we are publicly posting the emails that we receive, which can be accessed at mdusd.org/board meetings. There's also information on how to leave a public comment in person, which we've arrived at now. Registration was required. Participants are requested to send an email, and they receive an automatic reply with instructions on how to participate. So now that we're here, we're going to go ahead and proceed. I can tell you that we have 4 adults at least that have pre-registered for public comment and 2 students. We'll start with Mrs. Leslie Amore Harris, and she will introduce 2 students. And next, we'll proceed to Julia Jameson. First, Miss Harris.
Thank you so much.
Begins.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Clark, and attendees. My name is Leslie Amore Harris, and I am a counselor at Riverview Middle School. As a counselor, I've always advocated for students' mental health and the importance of normalizing taking care of yourself physically, emotionally, and mentally. This is why I'm here to support my Riverview alumni in their proposal for the availability of mental health days for students in our district. I have emailed the proposal that they came up with they came up with to all of you, and hope that when you have time, you're able to consider it. I now ask that 2 of my students, Joshua Arienda and Ivan Lopez Rosales, speak and talk to you about what they came up with. Thank you.
Mrs. Harris, one more time with their names so that I can allow them to speak here.
Sure. So the first one is going to be Ivan Lopez. And then the second one is Joshua Arienda.
Okay, just a moment.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, we have Ivan.
Hello, my name is Ivan Lopez. I went to Riverview Middle School last year, and I am currently a 9th grader at Pittsburgh High School. I wanted to talk about how mental health affects us all and about how we should have one or multiple days off of school to help us work on ourselves. This school year was very different from other years on how we didn't start school in person. It affected our mental health, some more than others. Everyone should be aware of how not being mentally stable affects us. Mental health affects how we socialize and how we act during school. Not only does school affect mental health, but problems at home also affect us. Taking days off of school would give us time to work on ourselves and become better people. Everyone should have the chance to be happy.
Thank you. Your comments have been heard. Next, we have Joshua Arienda.
Hello, my name is Joshua Arienda and I went to Riverview Middle School last year, and I'm a 9th grader now at Clayton Valley Charter High School this year. As the COVID-19 virus has largely impacted our world, many begin to see the importance of mental health. Getting up in the morning, turning on that computer, and beginning the same routine every day for students can easily get tiring. Wake up, school, study, back to bed, repeat. By now, many students barely have time to socialize and take a small amount of time away from school, especially with new COVID guidelines. From this, youth mental health is being disrupted, and we need to be reminded to take a step back, breathe, and focus on ourselves for a day or even a few. Under much pressure, students tackle the importance of their grades, at-home stress, and more as this starts the introduction of mental health not being someone's priorities. During this pandemic, many students have begun to recognize that what we thought would be easy and fun is the complete opposite. Being in many different positions at once can negatively impact the importance of mental health greatly. The introduction of excused absence for mental health shouldn't be opinionated, as mental health is just as important as an excuse for physical health. To be implemented not just because of COVID-19, but because statistics in youth mental health is negatively decreasing, not just in the US, but also worldwide. Even being at home for the prior winter break may have not been enjoyable, and much of it is a break for students going through their own problems and mental health with other stressors during this time. Students deserve a chance to have a day or to have a few days for themselves to reflect, reconsider, and recollect on their own. This is why myself and other students have proposed student mental health days as an option for students. I am also asking you to please consider passing a resolution to directly support Senator Portiano's Senate Bill 849 regarding pupil attendance. Thank you for your consideration.
Through the chair, I have a clarifying question.
Yes.
So are you young men part of a group countywide that are working on this initiative? Because I noticed when I read your proposal that there were no Mount Diablo students on it, which doesn't mean it's not valuable, but I'm just wondering, are there Mount Diablo Unified kids on your coalition or whatever group you're with?
So I'll answer that for them too. So initially, they are Riverview students, and they came to me because they were really interested in helping other students. We started to talk about it within this smaller group, and we are looking to expand to have more Mount Diablo Unified students as part of it. As a mentor, I wanted to start off really small and then try to expand as much as we can.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Harris and Ivan and Joshua for coming to speak tonight. It's always great to hear from students and the direct experiences that you're dealing with and the proposals that you have. Thank you for being here tonight.
Yes, thank you. Next, we have Julia Jameson to be followed by Shoshana Nurek. First, Julia, your 3 minutes begins when you start.
Thank you. Good evening, President Cound, trustees Alas, Mason, Mayo, McFerrin, and Nzewi. My name is Julia Jameson. I'm a teacher at Mount Diablo High School, and I am a member of Medea's bargaining team. And I'm speaking to you this evening to implore you to direct the MDUSD bargaining team to prioritize settlement of items 2 and 17K from our distance learning phase MOU at our next bargaining date on January 20th. When the distance learning phase MOU was settled at the end of July of 2020, there were 2 items about which the sides could not agree. One had to do with the public health metrics that would be used to determine safety for reopening school. The other was with regard to the number of required minutes, the minimum number of required minutes of daily live interaction. Because the sides were not able to settle this item, and both sides felt it was essential to have a ratified MOU before the beginning of the school year, we agreed to come back to meet beginning, I believe, September 17th. So we're here almost 4 months later, and those 2 outstanding items have still not been settled. The sides have exchanged many proposals. And in addition, the district has brought forward several other proposals that we've dedicated a great deal of time to. However, these 2 very important points are still outstanding. Bottom line for me as a teacher, out of concern for my students and myself, is that all stakeholders need to know what measurements the district is using to determine that schools are safe to open for in-person instruction. We have seen variation in the state's categorization, first moving from one tier system to another tier system, now having the governor give indications that he believes schools should be able to open even when they're in the most restrictive tier, given the district's adopt safety plans. My concern is that the district has yet to present a discrete list of specific public health metrics that determine safety. Medea has proposed the same metrics repeatedly. We have agreed to drop some, but we still have not gotten direct responses to many of our proposals. So it is my hope.
Pardon my interruption. You do have 15 seconds remaining.
Thank you. It is my hope that we can settle these 2 items as soon as possible, so that we can then dedicate ourselves to working on getting students back in person through small group support hubs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Your public comment has been heard. Next, we have Shoshana Nurik. Shoshana, your time will begin when you begin.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Clark. My name is Shoshana Nurik, and this is my 20th year at Rio Vista Elementary School. We're in a very difficult period of time. While I fully understand why there's a strong desire to get students back in school, we also need to look at reality. In the neighborhood and school where I work, the number of cases of COVID grows. Staff members are affected. Too many families are infected, including at least 2 in my class. At least 1 family member passed away, and today I learned that one of my 7-year-old first graders has tested positive. How can you expect teachers and students to return to in-person learning? I hear parents say their children need to socialize, but even if we return to class, they would not be permitted to be close to each other. They won't be able to share STEM materials and play on this play structure together. This is heartbreaking, but while medical people are now suggesting that people should wear masks within their own homes, please do not ask us to return in February. Thank you.
Thank you. Your public comment has been heard.
Thank you.
Ms. Board President, we had originally expected 1 more registrant that I'm not able to identify in the waiting room. So this marks the conclusion of the public comment period, although emailed public comments are still available through the end of the meeting.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Breidenthal, for coordinating all of that. I know it requires all of the technology to figure that out, so much appreciated. All right, and thank you all for coming to speak at our meeting. Item 9.0 is next, communications. This is district organizations. At regular board meetings, a single spokesperson of each recognized district organization may make a brief presentation. Items are limited to those which are informational. Do we have anyone to speak under 9.1?
Yes, we do. Thank you, Ms. Board President Cound. We have tonight a written statement from Anita Johnson from the Mount Diablo Education Association that has been attached in PDF format to the electronic agenda. Additionally, we have speakers in person, both representatives from CST and Medea, namely for CST, Carmen Trones Torres and Debbie Hickey, who will begin.
I'm not sure which one you want, but I'll begin. Good evening, Board President, board members, and superintendent. I'm sure that you're aware that CST was forced to approve a contract that was a slap in our members' faces. I took a minute to read your budget solutions posted on the MDUSD website. As I was reading it, I found there are items that may be truthful, but by no way transparent with all the truths. Paragraph 3 talks about the increase to the STRS and PERS increase that places a bigger burden on the budget. However, nowhere in this paragraph have you included the fact that you have increased the salaries and benefits to these departments, and I'll give you a list. Agenda, May 11th, 2020. Assistant Director, Dual Language English Learners. Director, Dual Language Assistant Learners. Chief Human Resources, Chief Educational Services, Chief Pupil Services and Special Ed. Agenda, June 8th, 2020. Director of Physical, Chief Accountant, Transportation Coordinator. Agenda, 10/26, 2020. Coordinator of Transportation. And on that, all you did was change the name of the position and give them more money. New Food and Nutrition Services Warehouse Distribution Operations Manager. Director of Food and Nutrition Services and Supervisor, CalPAD SIS Coordinator, Technology Operations Manager, Maintenance Manager, Director of Facilities and Bonds. Agenda, November 9th, 2020. Director of Food, Nutrition Services and Warehouse position, Director of Facilities and Bonds. All of these position salaries increase the salaries and the STRS and PERS, but did you not tell the public that you were increasing the management positions all the while you were telling CST employees that the district is broke as you could not afford a 2% one-time off-schedule payment for them? Paragraph 5 talks of the deficit spending. While the deficit spending is in the above increases, because the CST members could not have a raise or have not had an increase in over 4 years. You forgot to tell the public that the district gets COLA funding, which is a cost of living adjustment, but have never given it to your employees. In paragraph 6, you talked about weathering the storm. You have weathered the storm on the backs of the CST members as you have cut jobs and hours every year. Where are the cuts in the upper management? At the board member March 9th, where the district was recommending cuts to positions both classified and certificated to balance the budget to get those where where they were cutting both classified and certificated to balance the budget. These were some of the board members' comments. Brian Lawrence, look at more cuts at the district office. Keep the cuts away from the students. Deborah Mason, cut all TOSAs. Sharice Khan, bring back comparison on vacant budget CSI monies, Title I monies for the past 5 years. None of this was done. Yes, you let the superintendent go, but you hired a new one with a higher salary within 1 month. Still no contract with CST. Still saying that the district could not meet financial obligations. Do you think there's a pattern here? Today, a Medea member told me Medea was told by the district could not meet the requirements for the 1.5% one-time off schedule due to overspending at the district. I can see where, if I go back to the beginning of my speech, and I could understand the difficult times of the distance learning, but I live every day trying to get our students on the internet, into classes, checking out books, Zooming with parents. Do your chiefs talk to the students through their learning issues? I don't think so. I was also told today that our superintendent told one of our members that CST complains about everything. How disrespectful. How professional. How dare you decide whether I complain? Are you in my shoes? I think not. Medea was also told that the government was giving the district 3.84% COLA this year, as the district did not get the 1.5% COLA in 2019-2020, or the 2.31% COLA on the 2020-2021. Therefore, the government was giving it a one-time combined at the 3.84%. This money would be used for Medea to get salary adjustments and increases. Wow, that's why you didn't honor our contract with the Me Too clause. The board is becoming very untrustable. Why must you always forget the CST members put their lives on the line every day during this pandemic for COVID-19 so our students can get the education they need? CST members have been working on sites every day. The Medea members have been working from their safe little homes. Yet you are increasing their pay? Your actions speak louder than your words. You do not care if CFT members stay at home. Get your butt to work. Make sure you feed your children. Make sure you come to work or we'll take your jobs. Thank you, board members, for caring. Maybe you should care more. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Carmen Terrones Torres.
Thank you. Good evening and Happy New Year, board members, Dr. Clark, and MDUSD community. My name is Carmen Terrones Torres, Administrative Secretary and CST Unit President. I'm calling tonight because of my frustration of continuously bringing CST issues to HR and to Dr. Clark and see little action to none. My member, Debbie Hickey, just mentioned about the frustration I have with communicating with Dr. Clark. He is the one that told me specifically that no matter what the district did, my members would complain. That if they offer us to work from home, taking vacation time and personal necessity time, we would complain. Yes, we complain because we're not being treated equally. As you probably already know, the CST union had a fact-finding meeting on December 14th that lasted all day to get nothing pretty much but an extra day off during the winter holidays. Yay, thank you so much. Very generous of your on your part. The district capriciously rejected to honor our signed Me Too clause that was signed months ago. This was signed by both the CST negotiating team and the then district team. We had to swallow a contract that shows the complete disrespect to our union, mainly due to fear to be left without a contract with this new regime. We were urged to have our members ratify the contract ASAP. So the contract was ratified on January 4th. Since I didn't see the agenda, this item on your agenda for tonight's meeting, I checked with Mr. Alvarado on Monday, and I was informed that my contract is now in fiscal, waiting to be sent to the county for approval, and then it will come to a final vote. I hope this doesn't last month, because this contract will expire this coming June. We have distant learning phase MOU that was signed in August of last year, stating that our members will be allowed to work from home. It has taken months to get meetings scheduled. I had all-day meetings on January 5th. I had about 9 members that had doctor's notes since June, October, November, and they were just now being seen. As of today, I have not heard the decision of the district whether or not those requests will be honored. I had a member in payroll that had requested to work from home with a doctor's note. Unfortunately, it was denied. You know what happened this January 10th with the January 10th payroll? People were not paid. Why? Because my members were denied to work from home. Even though they had worked from home the past 3 months when we were in shelter in place, everybody got paid then. But this time, there were over 60 people that did not get paid. But that's the choice of the district. As Debbie stated, my member stated, the budget solution posted on the website about the deficit spending. We knew that long time ago when ASME did an audit back in 2017, at the end of 2017 to start our negotiating. It was listed then that the district was already on a deficit spending, but it has continued. As Debbie had stated, many management positions have been created. There are employees sick with COVID in Mount Diablo Unified School District, and I am very concerned about the protocol in place. The one online dated 12/17 stated that everybody should be tested if someone in that department has been tested positive. The district is not doing that right now. They're saying that the county has changed the protocols, but it's not listed on the district. I run to HR, I ask, what is the protocol? Is whatever listed on the website dated December 7, the current one? They told me no, it's probably outdated. So who is in charge of keeping the protocols in place? Who is caring about the CST unit? I guess nobody. I have members working out of class due to too many vacancies and there are not enough subs. These members are not being compensated according to our contract. The district wants to pay them according to their interpretation of my contract. I told them, don't do it. The job will not get done. Remember, you, the board, is responsible of the financial situation of this district. At the end, it is you who have been approving the creation of new management positions and the expenditure, promotions, and everything that is expended, that are expenses in the district. Remember, the district is not run only by management. We are supposed to be a team. A team works together. Lastly, when can we get a report on the savings on PARs? I thought that was asked at the last board meeting. I haven't seen it on the agenda. At this moment, I ask that my members be treated with respect and dignity. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, we have Anita Johnson to conclude item 9.1.
Ms. Johnson, I think you are muted.
There, now can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I thought Austin needed to unmute me, but here I am. Okay, I am, let me put my speech up here. I'm Anita Johnson. I am the president of the Mount Diablo Education Association. The first thing I wanted to say is I want to provide some clarity based on what a previous speaker said. She had announced that there was an agreement for Medea to get a 3.84 salary increase. That is not true. I'm not sure where she heard that information. There is no agreement for a salary increase at this time. The facts are that the governor's proposal, which came out last Friday, does include a proposal for a 3.84% COLA for school districts, but that COLA would still need to be approved by the legislature over the summer before it was implemented for next year. So as much as we all wish that that was true, it is not true. So I wanted to stop any rumors before they started there. Okay, moving on to my prepared comments then. We are in the middle of one of the most challenging academic years of all time. The good news is that people are pulling together, helping each other, and sharing what they have. Now more than ever, we need to celebrate the hard work that we are all doing. Please think about all of the individuals that you know in our community who are getting tremendous results, putting forth extraordinary effort, and being incredibly creative to serve our students. Pick a few of these individuals and nominate them for a Medea Academy Award. You can find a link to the nomination form on our website if you haven't already gotten it in your email. From the nominations forms that we receive, we will pick individuals to honor with awards. The purpose of the awards is to honor everyone in our community by selecting and highlighting examples of the great work that everyone is doing. There are many different awards, some for teachers and others for classified staff, administrators, volunteers, and other members of the community. And we have a new award this year, the Social Justice Award. This award will honor an individual or a team in our community who has worked to promote social justice, racial justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion in our schools. Nominees for this award can be either teachers or other members of the community. Our award ceremony will be virtual again this year, and like last year, it will be fun and exciting. Please plan on joining in on Thursday, May 7th at 5 p.m. Most importantly, start thinking now about who you want to nominate and complete a nomination form. Nominations are due Friday, February 26th. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you so much, President Johnson, for sharing about the Medea Academy Awards. For those who might be newer to the district, it is an incredible event that has been going on for many years that brings people together from all across the district, from all different areas, like she said, not only teachers, but staff, parents, volunteers, and it's just an incredible celebration of, as she said, all of the hard work and innovation in our district. So really excited that that event is continuing this year. I know it's a lot of work to put on, done by volunteers. And so I hope to see a lot of fantastic nominations again this year. So thank you again, President Johnson. All right, is that complete for district organizations then, Mr. Breidenthal?
Correct.
Yes, okay. Fantastic. All right, so moving on to item 10, recognitions and resolutions. We have 2 resolutions tonight, and I will send it over to Dr. Clark to lead.
Great, thank you so much, President Cound. And we are excited tonight. We have 2 very important resolutions that we want to acknowledge this evening and ask the board for consideration for approval. So the first resolution is Resolution 20/21-39, and in recognition of January 18th, 2021 as Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And so as I have done with resolutions in the past, I just read the opening paragraph and maybe the last sentence, and then we can kind of go from there. So just to open up this resolution, whereas on January 15th, 1929, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who was one of America's beloved national heroes, was born in Atlanta, Georgia, and with profound faith in our nation's promise, went on to lead a nonviolent movement that urged our country's leader to expand the reach of freedom and provide equal opportunity for all. And he vindicated the belief that humble citizens can collaborate together to change America and the world. So the governing board of the Mount Diablo Unified School District hereby calls upon everyone to observe this day by actively participating in civic, community, and service projects in honor of Dr. King's 92nd birthday and to commemorate the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom by living our shared MDUSD values, striving for righteousness and bringing goodness to others. So with that, I will put it in the hands of the board.
Thank you so much, Dr. Clark. Thrilled to see this resolution that we've not had, at least in the couple of years that I've been around in the Mount Diablo School District. So pleased that this has come forward. And I know that there are active events in the community. Usually the city of Pittsburgh has both a breakfast as well as a city and school district collaboration event that unfortunately is not happening in person this year and will be greatly missed. But there are some online opportunities and service learning opportunities as well. So as this says, definitely encourage people to participate. Do we hear a motion?
I would make a motion that we approve the adoption of Resolution 20/21-39 in recognition of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And I think it resonates with us and is more important to us this year than it has been in a long, long time.
Thank you, Vice President Mason. Do we have a second?
I would like to second the motion.
Second by Trustee McFerrin. Any other comments?
Can I make a comment before we
Yes.
vote? So thank you so much, Dr. Clark, for putting forth this resolution commemorating Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. And I just wanted to acknowledge that, like most people watching tonight, the extent to which I learned about him growing up was his famous I Have a Dream speech at the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. But as most everyone knows, we just know it as the March on Washington, and we forget about the jobs and freedom part. It was a large demonstration to advocate for the economic and civil rights of Black people. And Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., though, stood for so much more than, as he said in his I Have a Dream speech, little Black boys and little Black girls being able to join hands with little white boys and little white girls as sisters and brothers. He was in strong opposition to the Vietnam War. He was a labor activist. And in fact, in Memphis, before he was murdered, he was there to deliver a speech to striking sanitation workers as part of his work for economic justice and his Poor People's Campaign. And as the resolution encourages us to all use the day in service to others, Dr. King urged to make a career of humanity, commit yourself to the noble struggle for equal rights. You will make a better person of yourself, a greater nation of your country, and a finer world to live in. So I'm pleased at the stated goal of our district celebrating our great diversity throughout the year. And this is my third year with a child in the district. And at least for 2 of those years, I don't know about this year yet, there's never been a mention of Martin Luther King Jr. at my daughter's schools. So I'm excited that with the passage of this resolution and more to come, you're establishing a new norm and new expectations that I hope will make our district more welcoming for all students. And I'm really excited to say yes in a moment for this resolution.
Thank you so much, Trustee Nzewi. And that really is, brings to mind to me the part of the resolution in the whereas section that says, let us guard against prejudice, whether at our schools or at the polls or in the workplace, whether on our streets or in our own hearts. And let us pledge that, in the words of Dr. King, we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. So just to your point, I think these are all issues that are alive and well today, and that we all really need to work on in many, many different ways, but in addition in our schools. So thank you. Any other comments before we take this to a vote? All right, so let's have a vote on the motion to approve this resolution, and we'll start with Student Trustee Alas.
A resounding yes.
Thank you so much. Trustee Nzewi. Is she there? Trustee Nzewi?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I couldn't hear you. Trustee Vice President Mason.
Yes.
Trustee Mayo.
Yes.
And Trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
All right, motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Thank you so much, everyone. Looking forward to the events of Monday. All right. And next we have item 10.2, review and potential adoption of resolution 2021-42 in recognition of January as Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And I'll give this to Dr. Clark.
Great. So this is, this is one of those resolutions that shines a light on probably one of the most horrific crimes that we have taking place in our communities today. So, it's with both sadness and that we even have to have a resolution identifying this, these horrific practices. But I'm also inspired to be able to bring this resolution to the board, and hopefully, as a governance team, we can agree to fight this this horrific practice. So, with that said, I'm proposing that the board adopt resolution 20/21-42 in recognition of January as Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And so, whereas human trafficking is a form of abuse in which force, fraud, and coercion is used to control victims for the purpose of commercial, sexual, or labor exploitation that occurs in every industry and affects individuals of all genders, ages, and of all backgrounds. So now, therefore, be it resolved that the Mount Diablo Unified School District does hereby proclaim January 2021 as Human Trafficking Awareness Month and urges all residents to actively participate in the efforts to both raise awareness of and end all forms of human trafficking in our communities. During Human Trafficking Awareness Month, let us recognize the survivors of trafficking and let us resolve to build a future in which no people are denied their inherent human rights of freedom and dignity. Let us make it known that human trafficking has no place in our cities, this country, this nation, or this world. With that, President, I leave it in the hands of the board, and I know that we have a very, very special guest to talk about this horrific issue, but I will let you introduce her, President Count.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Clark. Yes, and thanks to the leadership of our district attorney, Dinah Becton. Our Contra Costa County District Attorney's Office now has a human trafficking unit task force. And we were fortunate to have Ms. Dana Filkowski, Supervising Deputy District Attorney, to be able to present some information to us when we first presented this resolution last year. And she has come back to be able to give us updated information about what it is that we can all do to raise awareness of this issue and to be able to take action when we see any activity that might appear to be human trafficking here in our county and in our schools. So with that, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Dana Filkowski.
Hello to the board and the members in attendance. Thank you so much. I'm so honored and privileged to be able to present to you. And I'm overwhelmed at the just the symbiotic nature of this proclamation following on the heels of the proclamation to honor Dr. Martin Luther King, who was a labor activist and a proponent of collaborative efforts. This many years later, Contra Costa County is just getting that point, that no one response mechanism can be an island unto itself. The federal grant that we received in October of 2018 that created our task force is called the Enhanced Collaborative Model to Prevent Human Trafficking. And that grant challenges us to enhance our collaborative efforts between the community justice system and victim service providers, recognizing that if you call 911 and the police show up, that does not make our victims and our survivors whole. That does not bring back a lot of what was lost, which includes dignity and humanity and financial loss and job loss, and with a lot of our victims being pulled into criminal behavior themselves. The worst tragedy is when it is our youth who are themselves exploited. They don't have a life experience to recognize that an intimate partner who encourages you to sell yourself for sex to benefit that partner, that's wrong. And if that is a person who says, I will love you if you do this for us, that's the beginning of a trafficking and an exploitative relationship. The term that we have for those youth is CSEC, commercially sexually exploited children. And I was able to provide Dr. Count with a lot of resources and posters from our county, our Children and Family Services division, and we actually have a CSEC steering committee that is partnering with multiple agencies to try to grapple with that particular issue. The one thing I want to talk about that I wasn't going to talk about until I heard about Dr. King is labor trafficking. We have filed one labor trafficking case in the county of Contra Costa. They're more complicated. People think it's not a crime. People think that if the person agreed to their exploitative labor conditions, that it's that person's fault. And the reality is I have accepted the challenge of figuring out how to prosecute labor trafficking myself in Contra Costa County. I have a phenomenal partner in my unit, Nichelle Holmes, who will handle the sex trafficking cases. And it won't just be our kids that we have to worry about with the exploitative working conditions, but their parents, particularly now when with the economic uncertainties caused by COVID, moms and dads will do anything they can to keep roofs over the heads of their kids and keep food on the table. Where we used to hear about these problems was when a teacher noticed that something was wrong with their student in their classroom. And that conversation, that special trust relationship that exists between kids and their teachers, where maybe a teacher could call or reassure the child or get them help, We're not having that because we have Zoom classes. And so I challenge this entire community. There's a whole bunch of you listening to me right now, 140 people listening to me right now. If you see something, say something. To get one of our task force members to start an investigation, whether it's potential sexual exploitation or trafficking or labor exploitation or trafficking. The district attorney's office has a tip line. That phone number is 925-957-8658. I have 2 inspectors, one for labor, one for sex trafficking. They monitor those calls and they will coordinate the countywide response if we think there's something going on there. But if you don't say something, we won't see it. With the sex trafficking, I can see girls standing on corners. I can find out about stuff going on in motel rooms. But what's happening with exploitative labor, where someone is being pressured to accept less than minimum wage. And folks, it's called the minimum wage law, because if it was the minimum wage suggestion, people wouldn't be following it. California is a worker-friendly state, but if we don't know about the exploitative conditions, and they apply to people with or without immigration status, if we don't know about that, we can't do anything about it. So I challenge this community, and listening to you tonight, I see that Mount Diablo Unified School District is indeed a community that is connected and cares and works together to resolve issues that affect its community members, not just their students, but the families supporting those students. Let us know. Thank you again for this opportunity. In addition to working for the DA's office, I'm on the board of directors of the Contra Costa Family Justice Centers. That's a one-stop shop for victims of interpersonal violence and their families. Interpersonal violence is human trafficking, sexual assault, domestic violence, child abuse, and elder abuse. I encourage all families to look to their website if they feel that they're in need of resources, support, and help. Because it's something that's here in our community, for our community. One of the things that the Family Justice Center has is the Family Justice Institute, which is a training platform. It's gone virtual because of COVID, which means more people can go because we can all be in little boxes and hearing the educational presentations. On January 21st, I'm doing a 2-hour community training on understanding human trafficking in our community. And I encourage everyone to go to the Family Justice Center website. I think it's www.cocofamilyjustice.org and look for the training information and sign up. Completely free 2-hour Zoom training. And again, thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for that crucial information and the resources that are right here in our community that we can tap into throughout the year. That tip line again, everyone, is 925-957-8658. You can also find that tip line. It's been shared over social media with the hashtag #WearBlue, as well as what's the other hashtag? Contra Costa Wears Blue, right? So if you look under those hashtags, you'll find the tip line pretty easily there, as well as multiple organizations are getting this information out. So thank you so much, Ms. Fulkowski, for all of the work that you do in our community and for keeping us informed. All right, with that, do I have a motion on this resolution?
Madam President, I would move that the board adopt the resolution 20/21-42 in recognition of January as Human Trafficking Awareness Month.
I would second that motion.
All right, thank you. Motion from Trustee Mayo and second from Trustee Alas. All right, any other comments?
Of course, I do.
Yes, Trustee Ansari.
Thank you so much, President Khan, for bringing this resolution forward and this topic forward. I know it's one you're passionate about, and you've just taken the opportunity to educate a lot of us tonight. Contra Costa County is considered a human trafficking hotspot, and human trafficking really is modern day slavery. Our large community of immigrant families, children and families, makes us a huge target for human trafficking. So I really urge our district to take concrete steps to provide ongoing education of teachers, staff, parents, and students on what human trafficking is, how it's done, and how we can all protect the community from labor and sex trafficking. I know that this and the MLK Day resolutions that just passed will appear on our board pages on our website, But I'd like to request that when we pass resolutions like these that make bold statements and that do encourage action, that they're placed prominently on the front page of our district website and on individual school websites. And well, you haven't asked me yet, but yes. But you'll come back to that.
Thank you. And were there any other comments before we go to a vote? All
Can I just tell you that we do school outreach programs. So if Mount Diablo Unified School District wants us, we're working in West County right now. One of the things we want to do is just talk to kids. And I'm so excited to see your student representative. President Count knows how to reach me. You reach out to me. And it's better when kids talk to other kids, and we'll help you do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just in my work with the California Association of Student Councils, we actually just recently presented to the California State Senate and Assembly Committees on Education 7 different proposals, one of which was specifically about educating students around sexual assault, rape culture, human trafficking. So definitely something that I will be looking into. So I will be in contact with President Cowan so that I can get your contact information, because that is very important.
We would be delighted to partner with you there.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Great work.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Collaboration is the way we get this done, and I'm so appreciative. Thank you. All right. With that, let's take this to a vote. Student Trustee Alas.
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi.
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin. You're on
Yes.
mute. Oh, there we go. Trustee Mayo.
Yes.
And Vice President Mason.
Yes.
All right. And I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Thank you so much, Ms. Volkowski, for taking the time to be here tonight. Much appreciated. All right, thank you. And with that, we'll move on to item 11.0, reports and information. 11.1, review the increase and decrease of certificated personnel full-time equivalent for the 2020-2021 school year.
Good evening, board members. Dr. Clark, is it okay if I proceed?
Yes, please take this item, Dr. Rubio, this and the following item.
Sounds good, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I bring to you just our usual informational item showing you the movement and transactions in the district. The first one is certificated. So the subject is the review of the increases and decreases in certificated FTE. And so I'm not sure if there are any questions, but this one is here for your review as normal.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, and then 11.2 as well, Mr.
Yes,
Rubio?
thank you. 11.2 is very similar. It's informational. It's again, the transactions of the movement up and down, reviewing and increases and decreases in FTE and changes. Again, here for your review for classified positions.
All right, any questions or comments on these, board members? All right, thank you for the information.
Thank you.
Okay. 12.0 now, board member reports. Let's start with our student board member, Trustee Alas.
Hi everybody. Thank you so much, President Count. Board members, members of the public, I have a couple announcements, a couple of things that I want the community to be aware of and opportunities. This past weekend over during winter break, I've been meeting regularly with the Student Advisory Committee to the Mount Diablo Education Foundation, which focuses on advancing STEAM related opportunities for students. That's a 501c3 and focused on specifically expanding equity in the STEAM area. So science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. And one of our projects currently is increasing awareness for the Contra Costa Science Fair, which is open to students in 7th through 12th grade. In the past, there hasn't been MDUSD representation at the science fair, and it tends to be dominated by students in private schools or students from other local school districts. And this year, we are so excited to announce that we are really pushing the front on getting MDUSD students signed up for the science fair, getting support and mentorship opportunities for the students who choose to sign up. So if you know of a student, or if you are a student who is potentially interested in signing up for the science fair, we are going to offer so many resources for you to be successful. And we have a Google form, and which we made into a tiny URL. So if you are listening, the link is tinyurl.com/MDUSD Science Fair. So that is the link. I'll repeat it one more time, tinyurl.com/MDUSD Science Fair. So if you just type that into your browser, it'll pull up a Google form. And please, we are asking everyone to sign up by this Friday. And one plus that we have acquired is that if you're a student in MDUSD, the registration fee is waived as long as you specify that you're a student from MDUSD. So this is a great opportunity for students who are interested in STEM to become involved in science. And so, yeah, please sign up for that. Something else, other projects that the Student Advisory Committee is focusing on for the Education Foundation, working on promoting a Women in STEM webinar series that the American Association of University Women is hosting. I know President Cound forwarded me the information on that. The next one is Sunday, January 24th, and then there's one February 7th. So we're going to be working to promote that to all the schools so that young girls in STEM and young female identifying people can gain inspiration from these powerful women. So once again, that's the American Association of University Women, if you're interested. And then furthermore, we are going to be working on a poetry slam of sorts, totally virtual, of course, this coming spring, where students from all the high schools, it's going to be an inter-district event. Students from all the high schools can go and perform some of their own written poetry. So that is in the works. So watch out for that. Watch out for my student board member updates. So that's it on the Mount Diablo Education Foundation front. Some of the other activities that I have planned and have been working on for the past couple weeks, I'm looking to form a student district advisory committee made up of students from throughout the district. And I would love to have middle and high school representation from all of the high schools, all the middle schools, and especially also the alternative education high schools. So I have a Google form for that as well. And it is also a tiny URL. It is an interest form, and that is tinyurl.com/MDUSD SDAC. So that stands for SDAC. Once again, it's tinyurl.com/MDUSD SDAC. So that is an interest form to form part of a student district advisory committee. We would have maybe bi-monthly meetings or maybe monthly meetings, depending on the need. I'm also reaching out to site council students so that we can somehow form like a site council coalition and really form a precedent for a student board member for years to come. So we kind of have that resource to rely on, and we make sure that we are adequately representing the needs and grievances of every student at every school site. So that is in the works. Furthermore, I'm looking to pursue the Student Bill of Rights, which is just a document that delineates the enumerated rights of students that are already codified into state law, our laws, all that good stuff, but just has them in a more synthesized form. And I've spoken about the State Seal of Civic Engagement already during one of my past board member reports, which is essentially a graduation requirement, a graduation recognition given to students who show exemplary civic engagement. So we are going to be implementing that very soon, and hopefully for the class of 2021. And then I believe that is, oh, and then one last update. I recently met with the student board member from the Acalanes Unified High School District to kind of, bounce ideas off each other and start using each other as resources. So establishing that connection, seeing as they're such a local school district and experience, in the same COVID rates as we are, good to talk to him and use him as a resource. So once again, hopefully setting precedent so that the MDSD student board member can continue working alongside the Acalanes student board member. And yes, I believe those are my updates for today.
Fantastic. Thank you, Trustee Alice. All right, let's see. Who would like to go next? Shall we have Trustee Vice President Mason?
I don't have a lot because when I'm on holiday, I'm on holiday. I'm not doing a lot, but I did go to the last DLAC meeting and would like to, that was always a good meeting, the DLAC meeting. So I enjoyed that. I just want to, because a couple times testing has come up, I want people to know, anybody who would like to get a COVID test, they're given free every Saturday at the Contra Costa County Clinic at Riverview Middle School. You just drive into the back parking lot and usually there's not a big line. So that's a service that's out there for the community to take part in. And other than that, I'd just like to wish all the board members and staff and students and listeners a happy new year. And hopefully it's going to be a better year.
Thank you so much. All right, Trustee Nzewi.
Good evening. I want to take some time to quickly introduce myself before I get into the board report, but my name is Kayisha Nzewi, for all of you who are wondering, how do you say her name? I'm a mom to a middle schooler. I'm the public policy director of a childcare organization where I have the duty to work on the state budget and legislative issues. I'm a third generation Girl Scout leader, and I'm a painfully loyal alumna of the University of California, Berkeley. Go Bears and Cal Band Great. Yes, I was a band geek all the way through college. I will say, President Khan, you requested that we comment on our board committee assignments. And so I'm interested in the audit committee, the parent advisory committee, the career pathways and technical education advisory committees. And then should we establish the anti-bias and anti-racism committee, I would also want to be on that. So a lot has happened in my world and in our world since we last met. In my world, I had the fortune of meeting with the directors of Refuge Food Pantry, which is in the Monument. And early in my career, I worked on hunger and poverty issues. So it was a pleasure to dip my foot back into that topic during my discussion with them. They provide groceries to families in the Monument community weekly, and they're looking for ways they can help fill the gap when school is out. We also discussed concerns about how well communicated our distance learning food program is with families. Based on discussions with them and other community members, I'm fairly certain that because our communications are limited to electronic means and the occasional robocall, we're disappointingly missing a large swath of families who don't know about food being available. I had the pleasure of attending the Black Educators Association meeting where topics discussed included Black History Month activities within the district, the issue of racist microaggressions towards adults and students, and equitable grading practices, among other topics. I would like to offer my congratulations to Ms. Malaya Hall for the successful grant award for the We Do 2.0 core sets at Bancroft School. I'd like to extend my condolences, as President Khan mentioned at the top of our meeting. Condolences to the friends, family, and coworkers of Mr. Max Wilson, the custodian at Gregory Gardens, Mrs. Mashid Zinda Hall, the special education assistant at Valley View, and Mr. Jesse Forsland, a teacher at Olympic High, who all died over the winter break. I would also like to offer my deepest appreciation to Isabel Lara, who, after being part of the MDUSD family for 18 years, is leaving this week. The weekend I decided to run for school board, everyone asked me, have you spoken to Isabel? And I don't know Isabel, but she was off visiting family at that time. But the night her plane landed, she was on the phone with me. And what I learned that night and ever since is that Isabel is an unapologetic advocate for families in the monument who feel as though they have no voice. She's been a rock of stability for families who don't speak English, for families who are newcomers, for families who just need to feel heard. This is such a loss for our district, but I'm comforted to know that she is still here, still devoted to all in her community. So thank you so much, Isabel, for all you've done for MDUSD and all you will do for the community moving forward. As of today, we've had 49,802 cases of COVID in our county, 7,950 in the last 14 days, and about 2,800 in the cities in which our district serves in the last 14 days. I extend my well wishes to all who have contracted this awful disease and my condolences to those who have lost loved ones. Last week, our nation witnessed violent, seditious actions by a terrorist mob who overtook the nation's capital, using destruction, violence, and death. I personally couldn't believe what I was seeing, but of course, then I could believe it. As with most Black people in America, I instantly recognized the disgusting difference of law enforcement force demonstrated towards peaceful Black Lives Matter protesters standing up against the state-sanctioned murder of Black people, and the overwhelmingly white crowd violently overtaking our nation's capital to prevent the counting of votes of our presidential election, believing that the votes of Black people are invalid. As the days have passed, I've watched in horror as more video has been released showing how these people truly terrorized the Capitol with little resistance and much restraint from law enforcement. I so appreciate my daughter's teachers and the countless other teachers that have done their best in the following days to help students process and understand what happened. This historic day will go down in infamy. I appreciate it even more knowing how difficult it was for me to process it and continue to work. I appreciate the resources provided in the Friday letter for how to speak to children about this issue. And I especially appreciate the board's equity resolution of last June that declares Black Lives Matter. Thank you, that's it.
Thank you very much, Trustee Nzewi. Much appreciated. And thank you for reminding me about the committee preferences. That is something for each of you board members in your report, if you would like to share any preferences you have about which committees to be appointed to this year. We will take action at the next meeting, but this is a time to be able to say any preferences. And so, Ms. Mason, you can feel free to speak back up or let me know if you'd like to do that as well.
I was good with it as presented, so.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, Trustee Mayo.
I apologize. I'm being delivered a cup of tea in the middle of this.
Okay. Well, we can switch it around. Would you prefer?
No.
Oh, no, you're okay? Okay.
I'm fine. It was just a surprise over my shoulder. I would like to wish everyone a happy new year, and but with the stages of COVID-19 cases in Contra Costa County and events occurring in the Capitol and across the nation, let's hope that it's not a fractured new year for the remainder of the year. We all know individuals who've contracted COVID and survived or who have passed. My sympathies go out to every one of you. And if you've lost a loved one or a friend because of other causes, or if you are struggling financially to survive, my sympathies to you as well. Over the vacation, I had the joy of doing some of my favorite volunteer work. And on January 5th, I participated in the Special Education CAC Community Advisory Meeting beginning at 7 p.m. Parents adjourned to a California Collaborative for Educational Excellence focus group meeting. And that lasted over 90 minutes, and they reconvened their meeting, the CAC meeting, at 8:40 p.m. The reports were given and the meeting concluded at 9:30 p.m. So I'm just mentioning that because I want to share what a hardworking team our Special Ed CAC committee is. I appreciate Trustee Allah's mentioning of the Contra Costa Science and Engineering Fair. She provided a detailed overview and an encouragement for students. But one of my roles in working on that particular project is I'm the judge recruiter for the organization. So I will need between 140 and 150 judges to evaluate the science fair entries on March 12th. If anyone is interested, please reach out to me by email or contact someone at the district office, and they'll make sure that I receive your name. And there will be information on the Science and Engineering Fair website. You can actually just type in Contra Costa Science and Engineering Fair in your browser, and all of the information will come up from Bay Lead's website. So that concludes my report. You wanted my preference for committees. I'm interested in the Budget and Local Control Funding Formula Advisory Committee. Our committees are getting longer names now. The CAC committee, I've enjoyed the DLAC committee. The Bond Oversight Committee is still a favorite. I serve as a member of the Mount Diablo Council of PTAs, so I hope that I can continue there. And then if appropriate, the Parent Advisory Committee. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Trustee Mayo. And I did also see that the science fair was promoted through Parent Square. So it seems to be coming through to the 7th to 12th grade parents and families. And also I've heard of it through directly mentioned in science classes as well. So the word seems to be getting out there. So thank you so much. All right, Trustee McFerrin, your board report, please.
All right. Last week I was able to attend the CSBA webinar on Governor Newsom's budget proposal, which was fascinating and really helpful. So I'm really hopeful, that as positive as it looks, that it ends up being that way when we get the final budget. The highlight of my week last week was definitely meeting with Concord High School's student leadership program, the actually award-winning student leadership program. And as a former leadership teacher, it was just a real thrill to meet with these kids. I asked them a lot of questions about how school is going and how they've been able to transition student activities from in-person to virtual. And they said that it was tough, but that they were able to make the shift to virtual and socially distant activities, such as having a scavenger hunt using an app. They also told me that they have a new social justice project committee, which I thought was really excellent. I was excited to hear about it, and they were, proud to get to tell me about it. And a lot of the students also are very kind of up on what's happening in the district. One even emailed me today to ask me, about the board meeting this evening, which I found really, charming and impressive. That was just a really wonderful experience. And then let's see, I'm also really looking forward to the annual Academy Awards events hosted by the Mount Diablo Education Association. It was mentioned already by Ms. Anita Johnson, but I wanted to mention that this has been an incredibly challenging year, really, I think, for everyone. I think it's really essential that we make sure to appreciate and thank people for their efforts. So I wanted to let everyone know that you can nominate teachers, but also you can nominate other school staff and even parent volunteers. Parents this year, especially, we say it where I work, parents are our co-teachers. We've really been depending on parents, I think, in ways that are much different than any other school year, and parents are stepping up to that challenge. And then also volunteer organizations. So I just would like to encourage anyone that would like to please nominate people for these awards. Nominations are due Friday, February 26th. And then the event will be in May. I have it written down and I'm not, Thursday, May 6th. And if this is something, if you need access to the form, if you send an email to me, I would be happy to share it with you. I also would like to echo Trustee Nzewi's comments about Isabel Lara. It was very sad to hear that she is leaving the district, but she is just a really incredible example of someone who works so hard for our community. And I've really appreciated her service. And then for the committees that I'm most interested in, I am most interested in the budget, LCAF Advisory Committee, the CAC, and also potentially the School Climate Coordinated Health Council are the three that I think are most fascinating.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you so much, Trustee McFerrin. Okay. All right. So I had a few comments myself here. Let's see. I first wanted to just say that I started the meeting in Spanish tonight, just in recognition that our mission as a school district is to educate all students and engage all families. More than 40% of our students identify as Hispanic, and more than 20% identify as English language learners. On our dashboard, you can see that. We have over 50 languages spoken in our district, and I would like to just really thank all staff who've helped us improve our multilingual outreach to families. The most recent example of this is the investment in the Parent Square app. And just for those of you who may not have heard of it yet, the Parent Square allows a family member to choose what language to communicate in when they're communicating with the school, with the teacher, or with the district, as well as what mode to communicate in. So email or text, or just directly through the app. So I think that's a great addition to our communication tools, along with the translation that we have in our board meeting live in Spanish as well. So with current events in the United States showing just how destructive and dangerous the height of intolerance and disinformation can be, I think it's more important than ever that here in public education, we actively include all families and respect all families. I really liked what Tony Thurmond had to say last week when he said, "We can choose which future we want for our youth, and today must reinforce our commitment to using the power of education to end hate and bigotry and to empower communities that have been made vulnerable by systemic inequity." So education is the foundation of a safe and civil democracy. And so I think we in education need to reinforce our role in preparing young people to be informed, to be respectful, and to be active members of our society. So personally, I spent last week in deep discussions with my own family and children about how does a democracy handle peaceful transitions of power? How do we ensure citizens can trust our election system? What does fair and just policing look like? And we ended up researching just exactly how the 25th Amendment was designed to work, which is not something I did as a child. I know that many of you had similar conversations with your families and in your classrooms. I think it's so important for students to study current events, to be media literate enough to know where to get accurate information, especially these days, and to be able to respectfully exchange ideas with others. So I was really appreciative that there were fantastic tools shared out by the district and by teachers and principals and parents. There's also a parent group, new nonprofit called Rise Up Against Racism that is led by Mount Diablo parents and also a former Mount Diablo Teacher of the Year. They last week wrote an excellent blog at ruar.org that included a comprehensive list of many of the things that many of us were sharing out there. So I just appreciate so much that we can really learn and share together as a community in these tough times. Lastly, a few days ago, I attended CDE, the California Department of Education, has webinars, a series called Education to End Hate. And the third of the series was just a few days ago, and it was how to understand and counter Islamophobia. And I was really impressed that it provided high quality free resources from an organization. You can find it at ing.org. They have resources for educators and parents to foster safe and inclusive classrooms. They include detailed lesson plans and even speakers that will come out and speak to your classroom for free as well, providing many different perspectives. All of these webinars are available on the CDE, the California Department of Education Facebook page for people to be able to watch. I also continue to watch the state progress, where we are and our COVID rates, vaccinations, testing, and monitoring the state budget, what's being presented there, to learn how we can safely provide quality education to students while supporting the struggling families during this tragic global pandemic. So with that, you know, my heart goes out to all of the families and staff who are facing COVID and other health related issues. We will do everything we can to make sure that that everyone can stay as safe.
Interpreter, are you still there?
I am still here, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. So with that, that concludes my board report at this time. So thank you, everyone. And next we have the superintendent's report, 13.1. Then we'll turn it over to you, Dr. Clark.
Great, thank you so much. And thank you, trustees, for those very in-depth and very informative reports. If I could please have the have tech bring up the PowerPoint. Thank you so much. Next slide, please. So, I know it might seem like just yesterday that we started school, and I think someone brought it up in the public comments as we were preparing to open schools. You know, it does not seem as if it was that long ago. However, as you can see from the dates here, as we embark onto our onto our spring semester, you know, February 26th is the end of the second trimester for elementary schools, and March 19th will be the end of the third quarter for secondary, and then shortly thereafter we'll be on spring recess, and then by June 2nd, this academic year will be over. As we embark on the beginning of this semester, we started with a very in-depth cabinet meeting where direction was given and just reassurance was provided that at our high school campuses that we are looking very closely at our second semester seniors class schedules and credit counts to make sure that that all of our students have every opportunity to graduate on time, and to make sure that if there's a course that they need to complete before June, that we have those students enrolled in that course, or we have either one of our online courses available to those students, but some way that we can make sure that that our second semester seniors are at a minimum going to graduate. And then of course we want to make sure that we're providing transcripts for our students who are applying to schools and getting acceptance letters right now, and also making sure that we have those connections with our local community colleges to make sure that our seniors, when they exit our system, have a seamless transition to the community colleges if that's what they wish to do. So a lot happening as we kick off this second semester. If I can have the next slide, please. So we are clearly still in distance learning, and I know when we talk about distance learning, there's there's for maybe lay people who may not quite understand what it is. Here's a picture of distance learning, and this is one of our elementary schools, and it happens to be Hat Day. So it just shows that we have staff out there that are doing all they can to try to make the school experience as normal as possible for our students. We know that many of our families and students are struggling, but I think when we think about distance learning, this is a snapshot that we all can sort of embrace and walk in the shoes of some of our amazing educators just for a brief moment. If I can have the next slide, please. Here's just another example of distance learning over at Wren. They had a virtual art night, and this was a 4th grade class. And the picture on the left is one of their pictures that was recognized by the county in one of the art contests that we had, and they were recognized for their work. But again, you can see there were several different pictures of this screen to the right here. But I just pulled one of the screens just again to give an idea of what distance learning might look like in an art class in a 4th grade class at Wren Elementary School. Can I have the next slide? And then we're still working with Career Pathways. This is a speaker series that has been taking place this week. On the left, you have, we have great relationships with our trade unions, and so our trade unions did a virtual presentation to many of our high school students and talked to them about the fields and trades. When students exit our system as seniors, we want to make sure they have every opportunity to go to a 4-year university, to go to a community college, to go into a trade school, to do something that we've prepared them for. And so, we have so many different employees and programs within our district that work with students to make sure that when they exit our system, that they can find something that they're passionate in and that they can contribute to society. And so this is just a small example of that. And if I could have the next slide, we'll see it in action. So this was that Career Pathways meeting. There were students there from Mount Diablo High School, from Concord High School, and from Horizon Center for Independent Study. If I've missed out some of our other students, I'm sorry. This is what I was able to pull off of the information. But on the left here, you can just see one of the slides that our trade partners were sharing with our students so that they can see sort of the the hourly rate. And I'm seeing, it's not as if when I left high school and they were paying us, $6 an hour to flip burgers or something. It seems in some of these in some of these trade professions that the hourly rate is quite high, and we know many of our students are can be very successful with their hands, and so I'm just so thankful that the trades was able to come and share this presentation with our students. And as you can see on the other picture, you can see what many of our secondary teachers face when they're teaching is just screens with names on it. And so there are students behind those names, and I know that we've had several conversations with families, students, teachers, trying to get students to turn their cameras on. And I know there's reasons for and against it, but again, here's students at our high schools interacting and working with members from our community, and we are so thankful for these partnerships and for the staff within our districts who really have gone out and found these partnerships and continue to support them and continue to grow these programs at our schools. So next slide. Also, this is just, we have amazing staff here in Mount Diablo. Here is, on the left here, this is the office of Valhalla, and we see, the wonderful office staff there. They're making that office even more friendly than what it already is. And any of you who have visited Valhalla, you know that you are greeted with an abundance of warmth when you walk into that office. But they are getting a screen mounted into their office so that there can be messages and information that's shared on that screen. And so just wanted to give a shout out to the Valhalla office staff, and I believe we have a district maintenance worker someone from the tech department putting up that screen. And then over to the right, we have just from our maintenance team. If you go around to many of the schools in our district, you will see these 6 feet apart markings that are consistent through many of our schools. Eventually, if they aren't already, they should be at all of our campuses. But again, this is just showing the flow of traffic. There's 6 feet markers that can really start to teach our students and teach staff and teach our communities about keeping that distance as we're still fighting this pandemic. But this is one of our amazing maintenance team members who is assisting in putting those markers out. So again, just during this pandemic, and as we kick off the second semester, I just can't acknowledge enough the teamwork that is taking place within this district to keep us functioning. We are essential. We are an essential community service that we provide here. And so I know throughout the many challenges, we still have to attend work each and every day. And you can see just from these two pictures of, just a snapshot of some of the amazing folks that we have here in the district. Next slide, please. So as we, I'm sure, the 139 people on this call or whatnot, many of them are probably wondering, like, what's the call on opening schools, and, whether there's anxiety around there or fear or anger or anguish or whatnot. Just want to give an update. As I said I would, this is just a snippet from a letter that I sent to the community and to staff back on December 8th, that we would revisit this at the January 13th governing board meeting. And true to my word, we are revisiting it. Can I have the next slide, please? So just to be 100% clear, I'm an advocate of our students being in school. I think that the best place for our students to be, the safest place for our students to be, is in schools with caring adults who care about them and who have their best interests in mind. And however, I do know that there's a larger sort of, larger sphere of influence out there, that, whether you are a proponent of students coming back to school, or whether you're a proponent of staying out until it's safe, or someone who's right in the middle, I fully understand the wide personal experiences that we all have that help contribute to these decisions. However, the decision that I bring to the board most often is what does the California Department of Public Health say? What are the metrics that the California Department of Public Health, what are the metrics that they're putting out? What's the guidance that we're getting from the California Department of Education, California Department of Public Health, and the Contra Costa County Health Department? That's who we follow. And so I think after these next two slides that I think it's pretty self-explanatory. But on November 4th, 2020, you can see the statewide metrics for positive COVID cases was 7.7 per 100K, and the county metrics were 5.7 per 100K. Now, we weren't open during this time. We were in full distance learning. And so this is what it looked like at the beginning of November. So if I could have the next slide, please. And this is what it looks like as of yesterday. So at the state level, 91.7. Now remember, it was 7.7 back in November, and so now it's 91.7 positive cases. And as we look in our county, it's 48.6 of positive cases. So I just think with these numbers that it really is as plain as day that we cannot continue with the plan that we had approved several months ago because of what the metrics look like at this time. Can I have the next slide, please? So there's a great deal of information out there, and I think Trustee Cowan really hit the nail on the head when she talked about the importance of us having relative information that we can trust and that we know. And so I know, when there's headlines that come out of something that the governor said or what the state said or what different individuals on the news say, that we really have to unpack that. And so schools in purple tiered counties cannot reopen for in-person instruction. So when people ask, oh, are you opening? Or we cannot reopen when we're in purple. So that is crystal clear. I 100% understand that. And that's where we are right now. In addition to that, we're also on a regional stay-at-home order that was fully implemented on December 17th. And so, so stay-at-home order in purple tier, it means that we're remaining in distance learning. Now, Governor Newsom put out his budget plan, and again, it's a plan. He presents the plan, he presents his vision, and then it's up to the legislative process to actually approve or deny different parts of the plan. What we're going through as those in the educational world is those very highly skilled financial analysts are going through that plan with a fine-tooth comb, and we will be getting updates, not only this week, but into next week of what this actually means for districts if this is approved or if this is not approved in different areas. So, so again, I'm just sharing this information. I know some people may have heard the headlines. There's money, for schools that open. The budget, allows for X, Y, Z. And I just want to say more information needs to be developed and shared on this matter. The next thing is guidance. Is the California Department of Public Health is actually updating their guidance, and so we're in this, we're kind of in this. In between area right now, and there's going to be some very specific guidance on the testing of staff. On right now, it's just staff. Districts can decide whether or not they test staff if staff return to work. So if you have staff who are on site working, then districts can either choose to test those folks, or they can go and do the free testing that's in the county. And so the California Department of Public Health is coming up with actual guidance to touch upon that with staff and with students. And so we are eagerly awaiting that guidance to see where we are. The next thing under vaccinations, you all can read the news just like me. The federal government put out these vaccinations, they gave it to the states, but there wasn't necessarily a plan in place. And so now the states, the state received the vaccinations, they then released the vaccinations to the counties, and now it's basically up to the counties to figure out their vaccination plan. What I can say is that is that the first phase of vaccinations were what they call 1A. And so those are for your first responders, healthcare workers, and individuals living in assisted care facilities. But for us, for 1B, for those educators who, not just talking about principals or administrators or teachers, these are all educators. If you're an educator, you will be eligible under 1B. And again, they're working out some of those details, and some of those details are, well, is it schools that are open and actually seeing kids, or is it all educators? And again, it's not up to me to make that decision, or this board. We're going to be directed on this. And so what I can say is that, they are moving pretty swiftly on ensuring. The words that I've heard is that all educators are going to be vaccinated. However, the real details is, are the ones that are definitely going to affect or hinder our progress going one way or another. But as soon as I get more information on the vaccination plan, I will share that out. The next thing I wanted to touch upon, if some of you watch Cron, I was on Cron last night, and one of the things that they were asking me to respond to was to a letter that a group of doctors from UCSF put out. And basically in this letter, there is a team of doctors, and it's signed by many doctors, and I have a copy of the letter. If anyone would like it, I'd be more than happy to send it someone's way. But there are doctors that are saying that it's safer for students to be in school. So they give their reasons, they give their reasoning behind that, and they've actually set February 1st as a date. When I was asked that question on the news last night, I said that although I'm very thankful and appreciative of the medical field weighing into this conversation of schools opening and what that should look like, and the metrics and the benefits of schools being open. I'm very thankful to that, but that I didn't necessarily see anything, at least in Mount Diablo School District, that would take place before February 1st. But that I was definitely thankful that the medical field is weighing in on this very important topic. So what this means for us, if I can have the next slide, is we're on distance learning at this point, and I understand that distance learning is that all of our students are not being successful through distance learning. It's not from lack of effort, not from lack of organization or will, but we just have some students that don't have the supports in place, or may not have the motivations, or may not have the relationships or the technology to be successful. So I'm asking the public, I'm asking, our community of professionals is how can we improve distance learning for all students? Is more screen time what we need, or less screen time? Are there some other ways that we can provide support? Is there some other ways that we can think outside the box to better meet the needs of our varying, different students within our district? Either we stretch over many different communities, and students come to school with different experiences, and so how can we as a district really provide the best possible product as possible to our to our most sacred customers, which would be our students? And so I pose that question out of what can we do to improve distance learning until we are able to bring students back on our campuses. And this isn't I'm not bringing forward an official recommendation for the board to approve or not approve, but I would want to probably push this decision out until March, until some of this guidance from the California Department of Public Health can come out, until we can get a real concrete plan on vaccinations, until we get clear guidance on testing protocols for staff, and if districts are expected to also test students, and what that all looks like. And so again, I just I feel awful for the families that that are struggling with with distance learning, and I feel awful for those employees that we have who are working their hardest and trying their best to meet the needs of those students, and there's just some that they can't reach, and I feel bad for them, because I know that they take that to heart, and many of them wear that on their wear that burden on their shoulders, and I just wish that we could do more. And so I'm open to suggestions. I'm open to we have staff that is that is working very hard on this, whether, it's chiefs or directors here at the district office working with principals, whether it's our TOSAs or our curriculum leaders out there, our teacher leaders, our instructional aides, our instructional assistants who are helping. I was out at 2 elementary sites today, and the office managers were like, air traffic controllers with students coming down the hallways to pick up information. I was at one school, and a little boy came and knocked on the door and was asking where the basketball was. And it was the office manager knew the kid by name. He's obviously a neighborhood kid who comes and finds a safe space at that school, and she was just very kind to him, but she let him know very nicely that the school wasn't giving out basketballs or whatnot. But we have amazing people who are doing work, and so we really want to reach out to the community and see what are some ways that we can continue to improve our product. If I can have the next slide, please. The impact of COVID. So COVID has impacted so many in so many different ways, and I have said multiple times that everyone has suffered through this pandemic. Everyone is suffering. So I don't mean to say that there's individuals in our community that aren't suffering, or not everyone has. Our way of life has been upended. Our most sacred schools, where so much happens, have been shuttered, and we're impacted by it. However, there are those who are impacted by other things, and what COVID has done has shed a light on those deficiencies. And so definitely COVID has had a disproportionate impact on low income, on Black and Latino students. And so we as a board, as a district, we need to do more to help offset that disproportionate impact. And I have I have something that we're going to be working on. The next thing is that the pandemic has exacerbated the growing rate of depression in young people. This is all young people, right? These are all the way from kindergarten to 12th grade and everyone in between. The pandemic has had a impact on these students, and we need to do more of what we can to help offset some of that, this growing depression rate that's taking place within our students. And I just have two things that we're going to be doing coming up. So if I can have the next slide. So we have an equity board policy that the board adopted, I believe, over the summer, and we actually have an equity team here within the district. But what we don't have is we don't have a community parent group to sort of to support of give us that parent perspective and that community perspective and even that student perspective of what's out there. So what I'm proposing along with our partners within the district is to create a anti-bias and anti-racist committee, much like our community advisory committee or our parent advisory committee, but one that focuses on anti-bias and anti-racist, policies, procedures. I have another slide coming up that can talk about that. And then also, I'm proposing that we schedule a not just one, but possibly a series of mental health panel presentations. We have so many resources within this district, whether it's psychologists, behaviorists, counselors, teacher leaders, just social workers. We have the expertise within here. However, we have to harness that expertise, get it out into a platform, and then get it out to our families and to our students and to our community members so that we can continue to battle these challenges. Next slide, please. So the anti-bias, anti-racist group, it would be establishing a committee. The focus of the committee is to affirm and improve upon the district's efforts to implement an equity and anti-racist vision and mission throughout our schools. How do we do that? I'm not going to sit here and lecture folks on the inequalities, in our societies and whatnot. I think that, that some of those things are crystal clear. And if they aren't crystal clear, then even more reason why, we need to have groups like this who can get together and talk about these issues. I'm not here to blame one group or another. I'm here to say, hey, if we're going to improve the data of our students, which I've shared previously in many different forms, if we're going to improve that, this is something that we have to pay attention to and that we have to work towards. And so we're seeking to understand and develop actionable solutions to root cause systemic issues impacting our school climate. And implicit bias, things like that, institutional racism, things in our policies that disproportionately affect, our Black and Brown students. We have to address that. And I'm not saying that we take from anybody else to do this. we improve the plight of one, we improve the plight of all. So, so this is really a, I want us to be a model of professionalism, a model of unity, a model of doing what's right. And I'm very confident within this district that we have the folks, we have the community out there, we have the, we have the students that are worth fighting for and seeing something like this come to fruition. Can I have the next slide, please? And so the next is our mental health panel webinars. And so again, I showed you what distance learning looked like. If the trades folks can do it, we can do it to address our mental health. So we have resources. Mr. Stephanie Roberts puts out a wonderful counselors page that that is on our website, and it's produced, and it has so many resources that would benefit our young people and our families. But I want to make sure that everyone has access to that. We have elementary and secondary counselors, which in the California public schools and with our budget crunches, it's almost unheard of to have elementary counselors, but this district has invested in our counselors. We have many lead psychologists, either site leads or district leads, but we have psychologists who have the training, who have the skill. We have behavioral health specialists. So again, we have to orchestrate how we're gonna do this, but it's either going to take place the week of January 25th, or if we can schedule this earlier, then we will do that. One of the things that we can do, because we're all on Zoom, is we can hold this panel anytime and then send it out to all of our families or post it on our website and do that. So we could do a series of talks around mental health, because there's so many things that affect our young people's mental health. And I believe that we have the answers in-house to be able to address many of those challenges. So that really concludes my report. I'm very excited that we're kicking into second semester. And again, the semester is what our secondary schools are judged by. Trimesters are what our elementary schools are kind of organized in. And so forgive me as I talk semesters, but as a past secondary person, we're on semesters. So we're rolling into our second semester. Very excited about the possibilities for our students. We're still in this global pandemic. That's top of our priority list. We're continuing to work with our labor partners. We're continuing to try to improve the culture within our district, how we treat one another, how we go about doing our business and stuff. We have work to do. I'm not shying away from that, but the will is there, and with working with the board, we're very excited to kick into the second half of the school year. So with that, I'll be more than happy to entertain any questions that the trustees would have.
Any questions, board members?
I have a quick question about what is the timeline looking like for the anti-bias, anti-racist committee? Like, when are we gonna delineate membership and stipulations? And yeah, hopefully, what is the general timeline?
Yeah, so we're gonna. I wanted to first, I've had members from our community sort of talk to me about the need of that, and we have folks who are out there itching and ready to go on this topic. And so now that I have sort of officially, presented it to the board, and it sounds, at least as I'm looking through Zoom, it sounds like there's there's head nods and giving me the affirmative that we should go forward. So we're going to start working on this ASAP. And so definitely within the next couple of weeks, we should have a call out. There's still lots of information that needs to be worked out. What type of committee this is going to be, is it going to, the bylaws, all those things are going to be worked out. But we're looking at getting that done during this third quarter.
Perfect. Thank you. And thank you so much for the presentation, Superintendent Clark. Really good.
Thank you. Did I see a hand, Trustee Nzewi?
I just want to say thank you so much for this presentation. Starting with COVID and school reopening, I know that there's a lot of frustrating and angry parents out there. And I know that a lot in our community are suffering just from COVID. And so that's a balance that we have to take, and that we as a board and you and everyone at the district office and at school sites do care about children and do want to do what's best for them. And that is our main priority. That's why we're here. So I just appreciate your words on that and giving a potential timeline of when we'll revisit the discussion, because we are so deeply purple. And thank you so much for a lot that comes up, obviously, that came up in public comment and that has come up in the past is around our students' mental health. So I appreciate you, like those, that's a step, that concrete step that we can take to support families. And I wonder if it's possible, well, I'm sure that simultaneous interpretation would be available, but I wonder if it's possible to just have sessions that are only in Spanish or only in Tagalog, or what are the other primary second languages that are in our district, because this is such a heavy topic and it would be easier to communicate directly. So that's one. And then for the ABAR, yay, thank you. To everyone out there, I just want to say, for something like this, establishing an anti-racist, anti-racist committee, to anyone listening, 133 people, like, never doubt the power of one person. That was not me. So, but just one person speaking up, and here we have action. So thank you, Dr. Clark.
Thank you, Trustee Nzewi. Were there any other questions, comments? Trustee McFerrin.
Thank you. I also am really excited about the ABAR. I was really listening and I really liked the word actionable. I've definitely seen in a lot of districts where, we might have, resolutions or statements that really just seem more kind of like gestures than real, action. So I really appreciate that, and I'm very excited, to see what this group will do for our district. And I also wanted to say that I appreciate the information on the mental health support, and say that I think that this is something that we really need, as immediately as we can implement. And then also, I think this is something that we'll need moving forward, because even if and when we're able to move into a hybrid model, I don't really feel optimistic about a hybrid model improving mental health, for students, with students still needing to be distanced and in masks and things like that. I just really want to be cautious as an educator not to over romanticize this model of instruction, which I think is something that's largely left out of these discussions. And I also wanted to just to mention that it seems like we talked a lot in our last meeting about the small support group hubs. And I know that seems like something that we probably, I know we don't have an MOU on it. And I know that it doesn't seem like we could even implement those until we're back in the red tier. And unfortunately, our health data is just so terrible right now. But I'll be really excited when that's an option that we can offer. And I wanted to know, just kind of in the meantime, it looks like the mental health support is going to be an excellent addition. But I wanted to know, like, with the health data being what it is, without the ability to do the small groups at this point, like, what are some resources and what are some options that we can offer to our community at this point?
Great. So thank you for that. And I will definitely, we have a team of staff that are watching this call, that are on this call, and I know they're taking notes, and we are going to, and again, it's not that most of our schools have systems in place where they're calling families, where they're doing the best they can to reach out. trying to, bring some sort of, normal life back to our students and trying to support them as best they can. And I think, like so many things in this district, is that individually we do a lot of great things, but we really have to unify and put our power together so that we can have much more of a strategic approach to really dealing with that mental health and dealing with our students who are struggling, and just giving all students just more support. So thank you for those comments, and we will work on that.
Thank you, Trustee McFerrin. Any other questions or comments? Okay, well, thank you very much, Superintendent Clark, for the very informative presentation. I think you were spot on with exactly the types of information that our community needed right now, and that we as a board needed to be able to understand how to move forward, where we are with COVID and vaccines and testing, all of those things, to understand when we'd be able to make a decision to move back to in-person. That was very clear. Also really appreciate the actions of the ABAR and the mental health. I know we've been hearing from students on both of those issues, that are ready, they're ready to take action, right? There's a group of students that created a district-wide group called Diversify Your Narrative that are already, making lists for history and English about how to diversify our what is taught in our classrooms. And they're ready to engage with teachers on that. I know that in mental health, we've had students come and speak about the need to be able to have text lines to be able to more easily access, counseling or crisis lines without other people in their household being able to hear. So there's just so much possibility there, and I'm really excited about us moving forward and providing even more information and resources to the community. So thank you so much.
Great.
All right, with that, we will move on to item 14.0. This is the consent agenda. So 14.1, items listed under consent agenda are considered routine and will be adopted by a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. However, any item may be removed from the consent agenda upon the request of any member of the board and acted upon separately. Do we have a motion or any items that board members would like to pull? All right.
If there's not going to be anything pulled, I would make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Vice President Mason.
Second.
Second by Trustee Mayo. All right, we'll put that to a vote. Okay, so Trustee Alas.
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Mason.
Yes.
Trustee Mayo.
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi.
Yes.
And Trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with approval from our student board member as well. All right, that moves us on to item 17.0, business and action items. So item 17.1 is review and potential approval of nomination of a new member to the Budget Advisory Committee. Dr. Clark?
Yes, and I believe Dr. Gonzalez is going to take this one.
Correct. We have one new nomination from the parent. I think it's from the Parent Advisory, Community Advisory. Sorry, my computer just froze and I don't have the document in front of me.
I have it. Give me 1 second here. I have it. That would be. So yes, we have one nomination for the Budget Advisory meeting, and the name is Lisa.
Lisa Buffer from CAC.
Buffer. Yes.
And board members, we will be bringing more nominations forward once we get the appointments from both of our new trustees, as well as another person that's going off. So that'll be next meeting.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Do we have a motion?
Madam President, I move that the board approve the appointment of Lisa Buffin as the CAC representative to the Budget Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Trustee Mayo. Do we have a second?
Second it.
Thank you, Trustee Nzewi, with the second. All right, let's take that to a vote. Trustee Alas,
Yes.
Trustee Mayo,
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi,
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin,
Yes.
and Vice President Mason.
Yes.
And I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from the student board member. All right, thank you very much. Moving on to this looks like the last item of our agenda, 17.2. This is the 2020-2021 school plans for student achievement. Dr. Clark.
Yes, and I'm going to have Ms. Sachs present this item. And if there's any questions, Ms. Sachs would be more than happy to entertain those questions. But Ms. Sachs.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. The single plans for student achievement were brought for information in December. And so there was quite a bit of time between the December meeting and this meeting in hopes that people would have an opportunity to review them. Each school site developed the plan alongside their parents, and at the secondary level, their students, which is always exciting to hear their thoughts and ideas about how to improve the program planning at the school site. Within the budgets themselves, or I'm sorry, the plans themselves are budget items. So if anybody has, ideas or questions about how the funds are being utilized at the school sites, they can access this document. Even though there's only 3 on tonight for official approval, you're actually, when you take action, if you do approve them, you're approving them all for the district, and they all are available on our district website underneath the parent portal.
Thank you, Ms. Sachs. Board members, are there any questions or comments on this item? Comment, Trustee Nzewi?
I want to, sorry. I want to thank all the school site council members who worked on these plans. I know they're really part of defining the culture of a school. But also it's obviously about how it's a plan about how a school will help meet its goals in areas that may be underperforming. So it's really important for parents to be involved in this process. But I also know that many schools have trouble recruiting parents to participate. So I encourage all the parents out there listening to apply when positions open up on your school site council. And I encourage schools to do everything possible to make school site council meetings accessible to as many parents as possible. So, and about the plans, what I noticed is that many schools identify reducing the number of suspensions as a goal, especially among Black students. And they name PBIS as a solution and focus on changing student behavior. I know that the issue of disproportionate suspensions and expulsions of Black students is a long-standing problem within our district, as is the number of suspensions overall. And among the plans I reviewed, PBIS is listed as an action they'll take to reduce those expulsions and suspensions. My concern is that PBIS and our high number of suspensions and disproportionate suspensions and expulsions of Black students have been around for a really long time. And I personally can't believe that generations of Black, Latino, and Indigenous students just don't know how to behave. Those are the groups that have the highest rates of suspensions and expulsions. So I can't believe that they just don't know how to behave year after year. So this is a systemic problem, clearly, and I would presume that it has to do with school culture and the adults who dole out these punishments. So I would hope that in future plans that there's strategies that really get to the root of the problem and don't depend on solutions that clearly haven't worked over the years. I would hope that we could follow the model in Chicago public schools that establishes a committee made of community members that reviews the suspensions and expulsions that have happened, and making it possible to more easily identify patterns among the adults doing the suspending and the expelling. It's like I said, this isn't a new problem, but we've accepted it for way too long with very little change. And charge us to do better, because we have no choice. We have to do better by our students.
Thank you, Trustee Nzewi. Very, very important points to make there. Absolutely. Other comments or questions? I would just tag on to what Trustee Nzewi was saying in terms of participation. I know that I've been, as a parent, on a site council or two, and they do vary school site to school site as to what time they're held, and you know, how accessible they are in what languages and that sort of thing. And I think in some cases, parents and students and teachers are really working together to put together a very detailed plan with specifics. You know, it doesn't just say materials and supplies, but it's which materials and supplies are we targeting this year to meet this particular goal. And but in other sites, it's a lot more general. They may approve a plan that just says, you know, $50,000 of materials and supplies for safety. I think the areas where there are more specifics and more of a strategic plan to meet a specific goal for the students at that school are the ones that are more successful. So I hope that moving forward, we increase the participation throughout our communities and with our educators in those site councils, and that we as a board hear more from our schools about what strategies did you try, what investments did you make that worked really well that you would recommend for other schools, and which ones didn't and why. You know, we need to be having those conversations about what are the best investments we can be making for student achievement. And so I just appreciate everyone who spends so much time on the site councils, helping the principal to make the best decisions that they can for our students. This is there's millions of dollars of decisions that are made at that level. And we like to allow schools to make their own decisions for the different communities and different populations. But at the same time, I think as a district, we really want to make sure that all of our investments are really reaching and making the best improvement that they can for all students. So thank you. So do I hear a motion on this item?
President Count, I have one more thing just regarding students. I know we were just talking about how we need to, you know, increase as people should become, you know, aware of site council and really becoming involved in these local decision-making processes. Students, if there are any students who are watching, you can also become involved in your site council. Ask your counselor, your principal about site council. There are students sitting on that entity. You can help, you know, form the little LCAP, local control accountability plan for your specific site. And then furthermore, with the SSAC, the Student District Advisory Committee, I'm hoping to help student site council members better understand their role and better understand how to form these plans. So if there are students watching, please become involved in your site council.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Trustee Alas. Yeah, you know, I think that's one of the great things about having a student board member on the Mount Diablo School Board is that now we have a structure in place where you can be one of those systems of support for our student site council members and really bringing them together. So thank you for that. Much appreciated. All right.
If I can just do a public service announcement.
Yes.
Each fall, every school site council, actually, they go through training. So if there is an individual that does not know how they would participate, what their role is, and they're a bit maybe insecure on whether or not this is something they'd want to do, we do have some very thorough, detailed resources in English and in Spanish right now. And they are resources that are reviewed each fall with the council. So whether or not it's a student or a community member, we do provide quite a bit of support. So I don't want anybody to hesitate if they're just not sure about the exact role.
Oh, that's fantastic, Ms. Sachs. Thank you for saying that. Is that are those resources on the website somewhere, or how do people find those resources?
Usually what happens is the chairperson of the school site council is the individual that does end up, providing that support with the training. And it doesn't always need to be a staff member. Sometimes it's a parent who's a chairperson that they walk the team through it. Sometimes it's even a student. I've been in a different district where actually it was a student that was the chairperson of the school site council. So that's generally where the resources are. I have to double check, with all honesty, on our website whether or not they're available there for the public, but they are, they're absolutely could be open to the public, so folks could take a look at them.
Wonderful. That's a great thought. Thank you.
Once upon a time, the district used to have a yearly training for all site councils to come together to bring their teams and to listen and get ideas from each other, which I think was a really good idea. I'm not sure why it stopped, if it was the expense, but it's nice if everybody's on the same page. Instead of different schools having different understanding, everybody hears the same thing, everybody knows the requirements, everybody gets the same information. So I would rally for doing that again someday when we get to do, well, we could do it online, I suppose, just like we do everything else online.
That's an interesting thought. What you're describing, Trustee Mason, I believe was the Center Concord, 400 people in that massive ballroom where we just kind of took the mic and we went through the training, and it was quite a party. But it was actually a wonderful opportunity for networking and to share the thoughts and ideas between schools. But with the virtual resources that we have and having very, very large meeting group licenses, that's definitely something that we'll take a look at, possibly planning for the fall. Pandemic, no pandemic, it might be a great way in order to train folks up and just a very common, consistent message.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I think, can be one of the beneficial outcomes of the situation that we're in, is understanding the things that we can harness this distance, tools for, because it even when it was done in person, I'm sure there were benefits to doing it in person, but there were also probably some barriers for people to be able to get there, transportation, all kinds of things, take off work for that period of time. So there could be a lot of benefits to having more online resources and collaboration. So thank you for that. And thank you, Vice President Mason, for sharing that history as well. That's great.
And I would go ahead and make a motion that we approve the 2020-2021 school plans for student achievement.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Motion by Vice President Mason, second by Trustee Mayo. We'll take that to a vote. Trustee Alas.
Yes.
Trustee Mayo.
Yes.
Vice President Mason.
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
And Trustee Nzewi.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from the student board member. Thank you so much, everyone. That was very informative. Okay, item 17.3, as we know, was pulled during our 6.2 approval of the agenda, so that will not happen this evening. And then there's no carryover from closed session. So 20.0 is future agenda items. Did anyone have anything on 20.1? All righty. So given that, we are at adjournment, adjourning the meeting at 8:22 p.m. Thank you so much, everyone. Oh,
Have a great night,
sorry.
everybody.
I was going to adjourn the meeting in memory of Jesse Forsland, who has been teaching at Olympic High School since 2005. He was a huge supporter of Olympic student activities and events. Jesse continued to keep the community bike shop up and running, which is a gem of a program for the whole community there. Max Wilson was the substitute custodian at the Dent Center for a year before transferring to Gregory Gardens Elementary School. Max was appreciated and valued during his time at MDUSD. Mashid Zendadel worked in MDUSD since 2005. She was working as a special education assistant at Valley View Middle School. Mashid cared deeply for her students. So our hearts go out to all of the family and community of these members of our Mount Diablo community, and to everyone who is suffering during this global pandemic, this terrible time. So we honor them, and with that, oh, Ms. Trustee Mayo, did you have something to say?
The two resolutions require board signatures. Will they be added electronically, or do board members need to visit the district office?
Trustee Mayo, we can add electronic signatures, continuing the practice of last year into this year. Board permitted?
Yes. All right, so we'll continue the practice of electronic signatures. Okay. Anything else? All right. Thank you very much, everyone. With that, we adjourn tonight's meeting at 8:23 p.m.
Congratulations on a great meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.